Diaz, absent. Rolf Godon,
Here.
and Lindsay Romack, absent. Thank you.
Great, thank you. At this point, I'd like to open for public comment. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address this committee on any items not on tonight's agenda. Please state your name for the record. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Under state law, the committee cannot take action on an item not on the agenda. The committee will choose to acknowledge the comment and, or where appropriate, briefly answer a question, refer the matter to staff, or set the item for discussion at a future meeting.
Yeah, Bill Vogel, and I'm part of a group of people that are trying to do a whitewater park on the river. And it was suggested to me at one of the meetings, comment meetings, to come and try and get ourselves on next month's agenda. So I just want to give a brief history of what we've done. We got a feasibility study done. The purpose of it was to identify opportunities to enhance river recreation, economic development, and habitat enhancement in the town reach of the Truckee River. The location is along West River Street, right where the town park's going to be, and the land trust land. Who are we? Myself, actually one of the river scientists that is in our steering group, Jeremy Thomas, was going to do this, but he's sick, so I'm kind of reading his comments. Sue Norman, another river professional, myself and Peter Kowalczyk, we were the main organizers. We got the development of the river park feasibility study done. AECOM engineering firm produced it. We've already given it over to the town and sent a copy to Mayor Dave. The study details existing conditions and opportunities to enhance recreation, objectives of the river park feasibility study, to identify opportunities to enhance river recreation within the town reach, improve river recreation safety, maintain all existing functions, including geomorphic, ecological, and fish habitat, be consistent with community development goals, and support and enhance our local economy, and to be complete with current regulations and under all regulating authorities, to consider opportunities for cost-effective and efficient implementation. And then our request is that we would like the opportunity to present the results of our feasibility study to the community, study for the concept of river recreation community improvements, and our recommendations for a path forward for further consideration and analysis of river recreation improvements at the June 4th River Revitalization Strategy Committee meeting. We request at least 20 minutes for a presentation with additional time for Q&A and discussion afterwards.
Thank you for your comments.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm going to refer that item to staff, and we will put it on our planning committee agenda to discuss. Okay. Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, I'll close public comment, and we will move on to the consent items. We have the minutes of the April 2nd meeting and a proposed adjustment to the R2SC seat designation. Would any member of the public like to pull an item? Committee?
Minutes.
Thank you. Staff?
No chair.
Pam, can you?
Yes, in the minutes, page 4, it says on the 4th bullet, Pam Hobday requested to be taken off the Community Economic Vitality Action Team to allow Corey Caldwell to join. That did not happen, and Alicia Barr is not on the committee below.
So we will make the correction. I believe it was Alicia Barr who requested to, or volunteered to back off that committee to make room. And
Yes,
I
that's
think we can
correct.
make that the correction to the minutes.
Mhm.
Any other corrections to the minutes? With that, I would go ask for a motion to approve the 2 consent items.
So moved. Jan Holm.
Second, Pam Hobday. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain due to
Abstain?
absence.
And 1 abstention. Great. Uh-huh. Great, thank you. Presentations. Jen, welcome, and you're up with staff updates.
Great, thank you. I'm sorry I was a little late to the meeting. I'm gonna ask Hillary and Krista if they have anything they want to add. We have done a number of community outreach events that we're gonna update on later on in the presentation. We have a few more planned as part of that. And just thank the action teams for organizing so quickly and getting together and having, I think, what feels like a pretty good launch to that work and a lot of engagement and interest in those 2 action teams with some new community members involved in that process as well. And then kind of a last minute update, Alexis is not here tonight, wasn't able to join us. She's gonna have a vacancy for a little bit due to some conditions outside of her control. So I'm gonna talk to the chair about what we do with her seat and if we can hold that for her given some extenuating circumstances, so.
I may be becoming hard of hearing, but
You
I'm
can't
having
hear me?
somewhat difficulty hearing you.
I have never heard that before, that people can't hear me. This is news.
Especially at the Follies.
Yes. Just updating that I did connect with Alexis late this afternoon, and she's not able to be here tonight, is unlikely going to be able to attend the next few meetings due to some extenuating circumstances. We do have a rule in our code of conduct about missing 3 meetings. These are a little bit different circumstances, so I need to go back and review what the code of conduct says, and then I'll work with the chair on if there's a recommendation going forward. But just for the full committee's awareness, that's what's going on with that seat.
Great. I'll add one other staff update. In the packet for tonight, we included a copy of the capital improvement project budget for this overall project. We just wanted the committee to be aware of that. We had an initial budget workshop a couple of weeks ago with council, and then we'll be going through a detailed budget workshop on May 28th with town council, and then council will formally adopt that budget in June. So we just wanted to provide that as a resource so everyone is aware, and public comments on the budget process are always welcome.
Thank you. With that, I would open public comment on the presentation items. Seeing none, I'll close public comment, and I will move on to Hillary. Can you update us on the business and property owners inventory?
Yes, I will get started with that. So we had a sub-consultant sort of out in the field, or a team rather, doing canvassing of businesses within the project corridor over about a week period. They did a pretty thorough job of trying to hit each property at least 4 times at different times throughout the week to see if they could make contact with an individual there. So as a result of that, we have a fairly robust, but I would say probably still not complete, inventory of close to 90 businesses with business name and address. And then for the businesses where they were able to make contact in person with somebody, they asked for contact information for the manager and or owner. So we have a list of contact information for a portion of that. I'd say it still is less than half of the businesses that we have a name or a business name identified where we actually have contact information so far. In that process, they also provided flyers with information and links to R2SC, to the online survey for filling out contact information, and with information on our workshops during our public engagement period. So I think that was really helpful to make those contacts, and if they weren't able to make contact, to provide that information. Right before this meeting, I sent out an email to all of the committee members with a link to a Google Doc where we are tracking the inventory, where we have the sort of names of businesses, and you'll see we have some gaps where we're looking to fill in contact information. And then I added a column for R2SC members who may know the business owners there. So if you can identify yourself as, yeah, I know that person or that business owner, I'd be willing to make contact. If you can fill in your name and then any contact information you may have that would be appropriate to share. This is a great opportunity to reach out to those folks and let them know you're on this committee, let them know a little bit about R2SC, and to link to our process. So we're asking everybody to take a few minutes to go through, fill in some of those gaps. If you do recognize that there are businesses that you're aware of that we do not yet have on the list, please add those to the bottom of that list again. In addition, the goal here is really to get as thorough and robust an inventory of all the businesses with contact information, so that we can continue to reach out to them through this process, and then that information will also be helpful for our action team that's working on economic and community vitality. We'll have Erin Hussein doing interviews with a subset of businesses to try to get a better understanding of some of the specific circumstances and barriers. So we're looking to identify businesses that fit the different categories that he'll be interviewing for.
I just want to add on to that. I know not everybody has comfort with Google Docs, so if that's something you can't access or aren't comfortable working within, let us know, and we'll either come down and help you go through that list or give you a printed.
That would be me.
Thank you, Travis.
Now,
There are others.
There are others,
Yes,
but I know
yes.
that you don't have.
you sent an email to everybody about the list? And what would it have come under? Who would it have
It
come
says
from?
R2SC Project Area Business Inventory Review, 436.
And Travis, we can set up a
55
separate.
minutes ago.
Yeah.
Yes.
Huh?
Well, it's 55 minutes ago to,
And it would have come
From
from,
Hillary?
From me.
Hillary.
So,
but do you want us to be able to add to this document? Because mine's showing view only, so.
looks like I need to adjust the setting on that. So, yeah, let me do that. So thank you for letting me know.
I'm sorry, but Hillary, I don't think I was included on that, because the only thing I got was something from you on Friday, so.
Okay,
Oh.
I will.
Look, it just came through.
Okay, I'm done looking through. If anybody would like to sit down with a staff member, if we can print out a copy or however we can help with that process, we're happy to do so. So just let us know.
Great. Any additional updates, Lori? That's it, concludes that. Great, so I will open for public comment on the business property owner inventory update. Seeing no public comment, I'll close public comment and we will move on to.
Chair Jones, I did just want to say something, sorry.
No,
Just-
fine.
I missed the
Thank you.
moment. I just wanted to say, thanks to the team that actually did the canvassing to go door to door. It's a big effort, and I think the results show how much we're really putting effort in, but also struggling to get all the contact info, but the canvassing did move us ahead quite a bit. So I'm not sure exactly who did the canvassing, but really appreciate it.
I think that was
That's very nice.
East River PR.
Yeah.
So it was a team of 8, and they were out there in 2 different snowstorms in April, so it got stretched out. But I think they did a great job too. We're finding it's going to be an uphill challenge
Yeah.
to get business owners to share their contact info. But if you look at the list of 92, they actually were fairly successful, all things considered, I would say.
Yeah, I saw
I saw the document that just kind of outlined that, and I was very impressed by the information already. It's really nice.
And I did just update the Google Doc, so it now should be editable, Jan.
I'll test it. I got some data to add.
Great.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, with that, I'll close public comment, and we are moving on. Stephanie, we are in action team updates.
All right, I will launch us off here, and then we can have our chairs of our action teams provide some updates too. But just to remind everybody what our action teams are and what they're charged with, we have 2 action teams that are formed that have met. They both have expanded public representation on the team, and then we met formally as action teams to launch and provide an overview of the goals for each of the teams. First, you see the River Health and Access Action Team. They are really looking at providing this first round of comments on the River Health and Recreation Access baseline study from Balance Hydrologics, along with looking at opportunities and priorities, general recommendations, and some of the action strategies to come back to the R2SC. On the right-hand side of the slide, you'll see this graphic, which is really this idea of how the action teams function. So the idea is that the action teams will first review or look at content related to their topic area, so River Health and Access or the Community and Economic Vitality. They will, if needed, provide some recommendations or some ideas for the R2SC committee to consider as a whole. So they'll talk a little bit more in detail about some topics, bring their thoughts back to the R2SC to then have that information to consider as the R2SC gives the final direction to the consultant team in terms of how we might move forward. We'll then make content changes or development and then bring that back to the action team for their comment and review. So it's sort of a cycle where we get to dive into some topics in detail around with the action team and then bring those back to the R2SC. But in all instances, everything comes back to this committee for final direction. So the River Health and Access Action Team really looking first at that baseline study and then thinking about what the opportunities and priorities recommendations might be related to river health and access. And then the Community and Economic Vitality Action Team has a suite of goals here. So a lot to bite off on, but really their main charge, again, is to really help BAE move along with the financial analysis. So looking at the financial stakeholder types, thinking about the candidates that come forward as part of that for interview, looking at the barriers to revitalization, and then looking at potentially needing to supplement some of the market data that BAE will be looking at as part of the financial analysis, providing input and review on that model, thinking about barriers to revitalization, and then also incentives. But key, I think, in both action teams is that it's not independent. They're not making the recommendation. They're sort of diving into some topic areas and bringing those ideas back to the R2SC. So really the full conversation is with this committee. The next slide, you can see the timelines. Again, we have a very robust summer and year ahead of us as we cycle through, again, each action team diving into the topics and then bringing those recommendations and ideas back to the R2SC to then confirm or modify prior to us making some design changes. So those are both integrated into our schedule, but overall, again, looking at bringing everything back to the committees or to this committee and then moving forward from there. And then I'll ask for chairs to provide any additional feedback. Maybe Lisa, you want to start with River Health?
Sure. Lisa Wallace, they elected me chair of the action team, so I'm chair of the action team. Jan Holland is also on that action team, and Alexis Aller, who's not here this evening, and then we appointed 4 members of the community. I think appointed is the right word, to also join. So we had our first meeting, and I'm looking at the schedule here, and we're already a little bit behind, not significantly behind, but already a little bit behind in reviewing the draft River Health baseline report. So that was our focus for the first meeting. It'll be our focus for the second meeting. And then getting into opportunities, recommendations, et cetera, from there. We'll catch the schedule up.
May I add that am I not mistaken, but that baseline report is not available yet, so
Correct.
I guess
So you'll have the presentation, and then from that presentation, they'll develop the report. You'll give them some input, bring back to this committee input on what they really need to focus on so that draft report is as tight as possible.
Yeah, and I may not have said that accurately, but it is reflected on the timeline along the bottom, draft ecological baseline review, so it's accurate there.
I think I just would like to acknowledge that we did share, even though it's a separate item, the West River Park space, the plan for that with the consultant doing the baseline report. Travis, you brought that up during the last meeting with the consultant presentation to make sure that the park was being designed in a way that was friendly to the river. So she is reviewing that to make sure that that's happening. So a little bit separate from this, but kind of connected. I wanted to bring that up.
Any other comments or questions for the River Health and Access Action Team? Great. So, do I leave this
Yes,
off, or-
so the Community Economic Vitality Action Team met. I was appointed chair, whether I liked it or not. But we met and we too onboarded 3 members of the community, truly outstanding community members with a lot of background. There are two of them already do this somewhat professionally in terms of economic development and a lot of deep backgrounds. We're very lucky to have them. It's Jason Toops, Laura Saylor, and Michael Cohen. So super excited. The first meeting really was just baselining everyone. So town staff did a good job of getting everyone kind of up to speed as to what's been discussed within the R2SC to date. Stephanie gave us an update with what's been going on with the community outreach, where we're at with that. And BA Eric gave an update as well as to where we are in the economic studies for this, as well as some of the work he's done for town. We are going to meet the third Monday of every month at 5:15. I think it's in the Trout Room. Just on
Trout Creek.
Trout Creek. And we talked about the next agenda, in which we will talk about the 2040 plan, the original 2005 River Strategy Plan, more in-depth conversations on the economic and financial research that BAE has done, and also putting on the agenda a discussion about just what moving the road might look like. Because there's been lots of conversation about it, so we're putting it on the agenda to bring it to this committee formally, to bring it to town council maybe at some point so we can have a real conversation. Is this something that's interesting, feasible, desirable?
West River Street?
Yes. Yep. Pam or Corey, anything to add?
Well done.
Thank you.
Lisa, could I ask you to name the members of the public that were also appointed?
Yeah, Richard Anderson, who's here. I'm not gonna remember, I don't remember Maggie's last name. Can you help me, Carissa?
I believe it's Maggie Cummings.
Maggie Cummings. She was not able to attend our first meeting, but she'll be there for our second meeting. I'm not,
Morgan Hargrave
yep, Morgan, thank you.
and Jake Hudson.
Yep.
Great, thank you, I just wanted that on the record.
Also, it's like the Community and Economic Vitality Action Team has great members. We also were really lucky that the caliber of all, I'm proud that it was the same for you guys, the caliber of all the applicants was very high. It was definitely a difficult appointment process.
What a lucky problem.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, great.
What a
Thank
complicated
you.
scoring process.
Thanks for that update, and I would open for public comment on the action team item. Any member of the public? Seeing none, I will close public comment on that item. Then we will move into design workshop outreach and communications update. Steph, you're up again.
Right, so, we've been out a bit, and thank you to all the members who have, either helped out at an event or, told someone that they know about an event and helped shepherd them there. Travis, you had a number of people that came to some events and said, Travis told me to come, so thanks for spreading the word. It's really the success of those is really, part and parcel about the success that we have with this group really connecting. So the more we can do that, the better. So in terms of, and I'll ask East River to help out here a little bit, there's been some, activity in terms of helping to spread the word about the event. So a number of press releases, more than just the 9. Katie will be able to share a little bit more about that. But social media, ad campaigns, handouts to the community. There was information with the flyer as well about some of the activities. It was promoted through the social post, and then we also had a wonderful interview as well on the radio with Tim and Lisa. Kate, anything you'd like to say in particular about some of it?
Yeah, I think the microphone would be good. Thanks.
Yeah, just a slight correction, there were not 9 press releases, there was 1. There've been 5, I think, in 6 months, but press release went out and it was picked up by 9 news outlets and or what I call micro outlets, including Truckee River Watershed Council, Truckee Chamber, went out through Big Life Weekly twice, I think. At any rate, it got decent pickup. I would call that decent pickup. I think the one effort that was had a lot of reach for the budget of a $350 ad insertion spend, we reached almost 60,000 people. So Will Apotheker does that work for our firm, and he ran, we have a link to the post that I think is in something that the committee can receive, or we can follow up with that. But you can see the ad that we ran, and it was an 8-second video, and it was Court Levy's drone shot going down East River, and it was East River Street, and it was 3 different, well, it might have been the whole corridor, it might have been a West River, but it was 3 different moving B-roll, what we call B-roll video, and then the information to the different coffee chats and taco talks in the event at the trailhead were listed in the content, and as the events came up and passed, Will would amend, he would edit the copy. So at any rate, we targeted people living in or recently visiting Truckee, which was our way of targeting hopefully second homeowners, because the second homeowners might be up here in Truckee, but they list Orinda as their home address for Meta's purposes. And then this comes up, these were digital social ads, so they come up in Instagram and Facebook feeds. So number of impressions was 70,000. Each person saw it about almost 2 times, 1.80, 1.79 times. Cost per click is 88 cents. That's within the range of what's considered good. Usually like about a 34 cents per click kind of rate, but because it was such a small audience, spending 88 cents to drive almost 400 people to the website is considered pretty good. So anyway, that was an effort just trying to drive awareness that this engagement window and these events were planned, and it's just another way to get the word out and try to reach people. So I think that's it. And then Stephanie's slide, we did print up a takeaway card. I think we printed 300, and those were distributed at the window downstairs. So Braun, the town PIO Braun Roberts, set those out and then got them over to Kristen York, who went out and spoke with Golden Seniors, and Hillary spoke at Good Morning Truckee and the CTA, at the CTA meeting to about 30 people. So we had those sort of what we consider a meeting takeaway or a leave behind piece. That was an oversized postcard, but it was not mailed. We did the canvassing to businesses effort, and we had a 2-sided flyer that was translated. We just did a peach jar. Oh, that was separate, sorry, that's a different one. All right. Yeah, and then we got social posts over to Braun. So the town promoted the engagement events through social, and also did a community spotlight that Tim Rupert and Lisa Wallace participating on. And Jenny, she's a big, Jenny Kendrick on our team. She loves the radio, so she heard it. So she came back and reported to us. Yeah, they catch the. So anyway, that was the effort to get the word out for April.
And as we look at the events themselves, so we had two different, what we were calling taco talks. These were all open houses, flow through at your own pace in terms of being able to provide feedback as part of the boards. Two, one at Lift Truckee, one at Donner Creek Mobile Home Park, that was all in Spanish, and then also one at the East River Street Trailhead. Each of those had between 20 to 30 people-ish flow through. Some actually signed in, some signed in with our passport cards that they had to turn in for either a taco or for a trail bar. So we're trying to capture how many attendees we had. We also hosted 2 coffee chats. Kristen hosted those, and similar number of attendees there, 15 to 20. That format was a little bit different. Kristen provided a little bit more of a sort of overview presentation and then captured ideas on a flip chart piece, but also trying to drive people to the online platform to provide content there. So overall, for the events that we have currently held, about almost 100 people sort of flowing through at the in-person events. We'll come back to that in a minute. We also had a number of presentations that were shared, so people providing presentations at some of the existing meetings. So the Truckee Downtown Merchants Association, which had 15 attendees, and then the link was sent out, thank you Corey, to the mailing list of over 80 people. At Good Morning Truckee, and 40 attendees at the Golden Seniors, and then also at a climate transformation event. These are the ones that I know about. It would be helpful if others did pick up, the presentation and shared it. Please let me know so we can capture that. We do know that there's some other events on the horizon because we're feeling that we need more. And this isn't a one and done as part of engagement. This is a build too, especially to help drive awareness, but then also to gain excitement about I'm really wanting to participate and know that there's this effort is going on. So we are planning to go ahead and hold another open house that is really focused on project area residents, businesses, and property owners. Looking to schedule that June 3rd in the evening as a pizza open house. Again, really leaning into this group to help get the word out and get people there so we can be able to get as much input as we can. We're also going to change some things up, I think, on the online platform and maybe with some of the presentation materials to make that as successful as possible. I think being able to learn from where we're at and being able to pivot as needed is really important. We also have some tabling events, the farmers market at Truckee Days, looking to schedule a presentation. I wasn't sure which date Jan was doing it at Rotary, and then still to be determined, we're still planning in progress a multi-board session as well. So I'll keep going and then we'll come back for questions and comments. On the online platform, really what we're seeing here is, so you can see in this slide that we've had 686 contributions of ideas. The majority of those ideas have really come through the in-person workshops. So as those in-person workshops happen, we're on the backside adding them to the online platform so that the full community can look at them and interact with them. We have had, a dozen other people contribute ideas, but the majority of those ideas are really being contributed through the in-person workshops is really, I think, the key takeaway there. So we have some feedback. People are, coming to the site, but not engaging as much in the dialogue or the conversation as we would hope. The majority of the activity on the site is coming directly, so either through the QR code or from us again coming in. We are seeing people come in. We're just not seeing them actually contribute as much to the site. So we can send out the full summary after we finish the engagement workshop, but primarily what we're seeing is people providing input on the first question that we were asking, which is really about the overall vision for the river corridor, and a little bit less on project area specific recommendations. So I think and we're also seeing a lot of consistency with the comments too. So some of the common themes that you can see here, things that we're hearing, restoring or replacing some of the rundown or derelict buildings, more trails and parks, idea about housing, affordable housing, potentially increasing density, to honor the historic feel, to make it more river-centric, the Whitewater Park on West River Street, opportunities for restoration, walking and biking paths, accessibilities of paths, really thinking about leaning into green space, not too much development, to leave it natural, recreation, again, focus on a healthy river and celebrating the river. So you can sort of see that there are some common themes and then some differing of opinion as well that comes forward, which we anticipated. So how much and where things might want to be. There were some comments and ideas in terms of offering help if people do want, or businesses do want to relocate or revitalize some of the light industrial uses. Ideas for arts, murals, sculptures, more river access, thinking about trash, restrooms, dog waste, trail connectivity, again, this idea of sustainable and appropriate access to the river, mixed uses, there were comments about restaurants and dining on the river, again, sort of that activated uses, community event space, bike lanes, and then again, some of the alternative views of no commercial boating, don't make it like Tahoe City, better parking, and more trees. So again, that's sort of at a really high level nutshell some of the comments that are coming through that we are hearing mostly through the in-person workshops. And they do seem to align with those three primary themes that this group had discussed before in terms of being within those groupings of thinking about restoration, river health and access, thinking about community vitality or revitalizing, and then also this idea of the vibe or character, this feel of, being true to Truckee's character and honoring the history as well, but just making it a little bit more attractive. So I'm gonna pause there for feedback from that.
Great, thank you very much. Comments, discussion?
Just for Good Morning Truckee, if you want to update your numbers, so it was 62 that were in the room and 74 so far. I've watched it online. So I can.
I underestimated.
You underestimated. That's okay.
Good.
And then I was just for anyone that was there from the community that was at the Taco Talk in the mobile home park, I would just kind of love to hear how it went and any highlights or anything, because I know that's a part of the community we're really trying to focus on reaching. So.
Yeah, I'll start. Chris and I were both there, and then Stephanie. We had Erica there, who was our DEI program manager, and the promotores, 3 promotores were there. And Jan Zawarski came as well. I think it was really successful and actually really nice to see the relationship that Erica has built with the community and the promotoras. They were literally going down door to door. They know everybody by name in there, or at least it felt that way.
They were like holding hands with them.
Like walking them up to the event and walking through the event. So, while the number may feel small, it was by far the largest engagement we've had in that neighborhood, which I think is a big step,
That's a big
right?
deal, yeah.
And did hear some comments, I engaged once in a town process and nothing happened from it, so I just haven't done it again, and that's what this is gonna feel like to some degree too, right? Because this is very high level, are our themes there? So really wanting to acknowledge that we need to continue the conversation and help with understanding the process for them. I don't know, anything to add? It was nice to see, I think having the tacos there and having, some conversation and it feel a bit more casual, and with, 20-ish or so folks attending, it afforded a lot of opportunity to just have a conversation versus kind of, rushing people through anything. There was a lot of people that just kind of hung out, sat around, ate tacos, were able to talk, ask about a theater, that came up quite a bit there. There was even some youth that came and participated in their own way, whether it was writing on their cards or just kind of giving some verbal feedback or understanding of, I like the river, I like going down and throwing rocks in and playing in it, or I think one younger person said, I wish it was cleaner, or kind of what we're hearing the same, but it was nice to have that engagement.
I agree with everything, and I will add it. To me, it was fascinating that almost everyone that I at least saw come through was younger. I'm not sure what the trend there was, or if there's a comfort level or what that was, but we saw a lot of, I'd say like high school or younger.
That's cool.
Thank you.
I have a question of where the survey online is available. I was trying to find a link from our River Revitalization Steering Committee page, but that,
Yeah, the link is on the other town page, but if you type in truckeerriverrevitalization.com, just as, in your URL, it'll
oh,
start there.
okay. It might make sense for
On
us.
the town's website, townoftruckee.gov/river, takes you to the main river revitalization project page, and then there's a link right at the top.
It says join the conversation.
Okay. It seems like from the steering committee, it'd be nice to have, is there a link? I don't think there's a link there's a steering committee page, and it seems like it'd be good
To
to
talk to each other?
talk to each other, yeah.
We'll make a note of that, and I will say that with the new website, we're still working through several little tweaks to that, so if you see anything that's a little weird, let us know, because we might not have identified it yet in the process, we can fix that.
I'd like to give an update on the communications whenever that's appropriate. Our subcommittee last night.
And I just have I did present to the LGAC, Legislative Government Affairs Committee, the presentation, the PowerPoint presentation. There were probably 12 people maybe. Yeah, so I would just say.
Did you hear any feedback?
There was a number of questions, and just on process kind of, and I think there was real interest. I'm also gonna make a presentation to the board of CAT, so a separate committee. Anybody else, any other item?
Yes.
Oh, and then we'll go to the, yeah, just on this one, and then I'll move on to, okay. Pam, please.
Yes, I'd like to give an update on the subcommittee communications focus. We had a really good meeting last night, and thanks for all of Katie's hard work and Stephanie's and all of our team. I think we're all interested in the committee's thoughts. We need a more robust outreach, just period. So all of this data is really good, and there'll probably be themes, no matter how robust we have, and it's just such a great start. But if we have 30+ people, and we have a community of 10,000 with kids, equals 17,000 about, we brainstormed, what do we do to really think about whether, it's getting all the partnerships in town with the chamber, with Watershed Council. We really did really good brainstorming, but all of your ideas, if you could send them to one of us, you can send them to me, you can send them to Stephanie. Is that the correct way? They should just send me input on the committee, or Alicia?
I think it would be best to identify one source so nothing gets lost.
Yes.
And let's have those go to, I'll say Hillary, and
Okay.
then we can send
That's a
those.
good choice.
Yeah, then we can send those out to everybody and just
Yeah.
kind of collect them together.
So we were thinking about the airport, tapping into all sanitary district, the PUD with Brian, all these great advocates that we have here, and getting really creative about input. The other thing that we have discussed is the need to really start working on that vision. And we've been talking about the 2005 plan, but that was 19 years ago. And I just reread the industrial part of that 2005 plan, and I'm not sure that that's part of the vision at all that this committee would want. But I'd like to recommend that we really start focusing on getting a nailed down vision of whether it's right or wrong, a starting point, so then we could do an exhaustive survey. Like the PUD has done, they had 72% of the population, and get reactions. Then we talked about, there are so many surveys out there, and are people just really tired of surveys? But how we really reach people, so that they're representative of this committee and of our community is extremely important. So I'd really like to challenge everybody to think about this and get back, send to Hillary your ideas, so that we can do that. And just thanks to all the committee members and all the hard work on getting all the logistics of this first outreach. So kudos.
Thanks. With that update, any questions on that? Comments?
I was just thinking about the survey, and it's one of the ways that it's an easy way to collect a lot of feedback from a lot of people. Do we really want to push? Did it come up with the? Maybe, here's my question: what would be the communication subcommittee view on like prioritizing the survey?
I think it was just a discussion about really the articulating the vision and getting reaction to this is what we're thinking about, and to give the community a lot more information.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty vague, and we've gotten really good input on big picture ideas. I mean, we haven't gotten enough input.
But we've gotten really consistent input.
Yeah.
I think that's probably most heartening to me, is that
Yeah.
the community seems somewhat aligned.
It's a little tricky with such a small.
It's a very small sample.
Self-selected group.
And,
Yeah.
and she asked me
All
the
true.
question about the subcommittee, and I could say, Stephanie isn't able to be here tonight, so I'm speaking for her right now, but she's extremely concerned about this. And she has COVID, so she couldn't be here, but she asked me she's texted me. So I am articulating from both of us about the vision and getting input.
Jan?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've kind of got a chicken and the egg situation going on here, right? Where Pam's talking about, and I agree, that we need, in order for this process to move along to our plan, or even anywhere near it, we need to articulate a vision pretty soon. However, we're trying to get input to build that vision. At this point, I think that's what's happening. And then we get a vision and then get input again, right? And so that's the challenge. And I do see that we've got very few data points, which is why I was like digging into the weeds on how do you get to this thing. I'm happy, we email out to 2,400 people at the lift. We get about 55% of those people actually open that thing. And so I'm happy to do that, but I need to know where to drive the traffic. I mean, just one point on this is that when you actually click it, you leave the town website, and then to get back to it, it'd be great if it opened in a new window. That would, be helpful. But anyway, I think it's great, and more input and vision, starting to narrow in on a vision sooner
Yeah.
than later.
We're gonna move right into that tonight. It's tonight's agenda topic, so is to work on it.
And I would just say, if you are gonna drive traffic, if you can drive people just directly to truckeerriverrevitalization.com, the land here, on this page, and be able to just provide input. It has similar information in terms of project background as the town site, but click-throughs, we all know you click it once and then you
Tired of
don't, so,
clicking.
yes, if you're gonna share, I'd share just the direct link.
Do you guys think that driving everything through an electronic device is the only way?
No, that's why we.
Because what I'm hearing is like, these electronic devices is the only way, and I think we're missing a whole bunch of people by thinking that.
No,
Rolf.
absolutely not.
You have one of these that you look at all the time,
Yeah,
computer, all the stuff coming to you?
But that's, I think, was the thought behind the coffee talks and the taco talks. Those were not
Yeah, we're reaching,
machine driven. We're
wouldn't
not
get
reaching very many people, but
60 people, maybe?
Oh,
yeah,
100.
100.
100? And how many people are in town?
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
I'm just saying that these things are, I mean, that's just a,
Yeah, open to ideas and suggestions and,
This is a common problem that we haven't figured out how to crack this nut to.
yeah, but we're
Yeah.
making decisions based on,
Yeah.
you know what
But I
I
can
mean?
tell you that, sitting on town council for years and years, deciding $12 million budgets with one person in the room, like it blew me away.
I get it.
It's a really hard thing to get people to come out to, it's just a challenge, and I don't think we should give up on the challenge, but I think we should also be aware that it's hard, and that we'll have to keep after it, and we'll never feel that we're 100% successful. We're gonna just always be reaching. And when what does happen is when people have an opinion, they show up. When you strike a nerve in some way, positive or negative, usually people show up. So we don't really want to make it adversarial that way, but we do want to engage our community and get people talking.
I think to the point about doing a survey, like we probably have an opportunity to do a community-wide survey, like one time, right? We have the
Right.
vision, this is what we're thinking, how's the community feeling about that?
Right.
And then we're gonna get a statistically representative sample, because we'll do a statistical survey. And there's, all the mathematics behind that, but we can't do a survey in every little piece, because then it's gonna feel weird to people. You don't get people filling out surveys that much, so I think that was the point you were trying to make, is we need
Yes.
to get to that vision.
We have to.
So we can get it out in the community and get better feedback if we're the right space.
I think that once we do that, what we were talking about, I really agree with you, Travis. With the general plan, we just didn't find that sweet spot of how to do this. And so the call to action tonight from all of you, do we have the sanitary district and the PUD and the airport and Jan and the chamber and Lisa? Do we all, my clients, your clients, do we try to figure out how we can bring more people together then to react to what the people on the survey said and have, face-to-face meetings? But we haven't figured out how to do that, and the subcommittee, the communication subcommittee, really needs everybody's help on this committee and your ideas. So that's a call to action. Jeff, you have a lot of space over there.
We do. We do.
We could just have a big party or something where everybody came and we're all there. I don't know. But be thinking about it.
Let's send ideas to
Hillary.
And I
Yes,
just want to
please.
save time to get to the meat
Yeah.
of tonight's
And
agenda.
I'll just remind, like, the groups are, additional workshop that we'll have, open house. Like, if we can really have all of you really dig into your connections to make that one as successful. It is, we are hearing from different people, I think, is some of the takeaways too, so that's a little bit of a positive, and there is awareness. We just need to, I think, you're right, people react to ideas, so getting the vision.
Yeah. Great. With that, I will open public comment on this item. Thank you.
Kristen Crone, Riverside resident. I'm wondering about the the coffee talks and the taco talks. And Chris, gathered all the feedback from the public, and you've gathered this information. And will it be published for the public? How can the public see all this gathering of information and know? And the other question I guess I would have is, how will it be applied? And how will the public, I think maybe that would help in this engine of trying to get more public involvement, is knowing that the opinions, or, because I think there are some there is some consensus on certain themes, and knowing that that's being applied in the process of this decision-making in the steering committee is just more than, you're talking about gathering, and maybe this is coming later, but I just keep waiting to hear that, how this,
It's a good-
yeah,
it's a
what
very
happens
good point.
next.
And often when you take a survey, there's a link at the end to see the data. I don't know if we have that.
Go back to the website and scroll through.
Yeah.
Just as an example.
And I also thought that the, from the coffee talks, that they were very encouraging, and there weren't many, but people were very involved and engaged, and certainly went out and engaged and involved more people.
Yeah.
And, you know, Travis and I talked to 100 people a day, 200 over there. I mean, this is that's your non-technical way of getting the word out. But it has
So
the
Kristen,
public
on the
opinion.
screen right now.
Yeah, it's awesome. You
This
can
is all
upvote them.
information that we've gotten to date online for people to be able to see and interact with.
But is that the only way, is to go on, if Jan can't figure out the link?
No, I'm there, look,
Where
I
is
just upvoted one.
Oh, you did, okay.
So all the comments that were written down at the coffee talks
Yeah.
were
Easiest
recorded
way to get
verbatim and
Right, and they're in
reflected
there.
here.
So then we could tell people if to just refer them to the Town of Truckee website, to that page, and then to this link, right?
Yeah.
Or
Okay.
just
Or
to
directly
here,
to the
just
link,
Truckee
yeah.
River Revitalization.
Okay.
What we'll do is send out an email to the committee with the
Okay.
link and then share it out, like Kristen, we
And
can
then we
send it
can
to you, we
email
have your contact.
Okay, so that's great to know, just in letting people know that they are uploaded and people can see what consensus is. Okay.
You are
What about
right
that
on.
part two about that?
Yeah, but you're
How?
right on in terms of like, people need to see their fingerprints on the plan.
Yeah,
too. So
then they
the
feel
follow-through on
part
that is
of
really
it.
important.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
Yeah.
thanks.
Thank you. Other public comment? Seeing none, I will close public comment, and we will move on to our Downtown River Revitalization Strategy Key Features, Framework, Opportunity Sites, and Actions. Or did I skip one? Great, Stephanie, please.
All right, so our workshop tonight piece, or activity, what we would like to do is dive into the 2005 plan, and just, this is a litmus test to see where it lands, right, in terms of, similar to where we started with the goals, which goals needed to be refined, how, how aligned were they, how, which ones needed to potentially be, to evolve. So I'm gonna sort of talk through two elements out of or two pieces of the 2005 plan. The design framework plan, which is up on the wall in the back, and then also the opportunity areas that have been identified in that plan. And we're going to have an exercise of just understanding which of those components and ideas are still generally valid. Maybe they're not completely valid, but maybe there's some idea to move them forward, and which ones are like, no, needs to be either dropped or reworked. Just as I walk through these, just note that we're really, there's some elements for the opportunity areas we're only showing on the map here. Those opportunity areas that were identified north of the river, we're not talking about the opportunity areas south of the river. And then also the elements that had been identified in the framework plan, they're essentially now with the river west, the park site, those aren't identified as well, because that's a project that's in process, so, just simplifying one thing, the list. So, I'll move through these.
There's a bigger paper map being passed around if you wanna see that.
You want a
In front.
copy of it?
Yes, Travis, you probably have that in your file.
So we'll start, on this framework plan, there are a number of key features that are captured within the text itself that are listed at the bottom of the map in the back, the large map. And those are the pieces that we'll ask you to interact with. And then we have a Mentimeter question for our attending public as well to get your thoughts on which of these ideas are still relevant. On the map, there's these three activity areas. These are in big pink circles at the end of West River Street, sort of in the center, closer to Bridge Street or the park area, and then east on the east trailhead. Those activity areas are really some more jargon, like energy centers, there's sort of like hubs of park, of community event space, or other sort of community spaces. There is a dashed black line that encircles, sort of as this figure 8 loop that comes north of the river, and then it connects with the legacy trail to the south. That's essentially this pedestrian circulation loop that extends from Donner Creek to Trout Creek. It identifies bike lanes to be added along West River Street.
Before they're all done.
Along West River Street and East River Street. Those are in these dashed orange lines on the graphic map. It also talks about adding sidewalks. There's recommendations for another pedestrian bridge near the confluence with Donner Creek on the western edge of downtown. Within the plan, it also talked about the river crossing that would be part of the park project, but that's not listed in our line items because that's part of a project moving forward. There's also a list here for pedestrian bridges over the railroad right-of-way back, so those are in the little blue arrows on the map. Next, we have 3 river access points and habitat enhancement points that have been identified. Those are in the blue dot circles on the map as you look forward. The ones that are actually sort of on the north side, there's more blue dots on the map, but the ones that they really talk about, the 3 primary ones. And then they had a number of, a couple of civic public plazas, one near Gifford Bend in the river, so that's close to that red asterisk, sort of in the center left part of the map, and then one near the Eastern River pedestrian bridge. There were also some civic plaza pieces identified with the park as at the park site as well. There's 2 viewpoints of the river from West River Street, just where the river comes closest to West River Street in that bend area. There was discussion about riverbank stabilization, providing high-quality streetscape and landscape in the right-of-way as part of improvements, and then there's these little green dots that are on the western portion of the map. Those are referred to as a green forested edge along the most western part of the West River Street. And then finally, there were identification of some new public parking areas along the right-of-way and railroad right-of-way north of where the park site is, the Old County Courtyard site, along the railroad right-of-way on East River Street, and then also improving the parking at the trailhead at East River Street. Some additional proposed parks in addition to the current park in process. One at the confluence of Donner Creek on the west, one at the eastern pedestrian bridge, so near the trailhead, and then midpoint area along East River Street, along with, again, habitat and resource protection.
What color is that? Park?
The park piece, those are really hard to tell on this map, I will be honest.
Right here.
Oh, it's a P.
It's a P.
Yeah.
It's a P.
So those aren't
I was
park-
gonna say, isn't
But
it?
no, yeah, because there's one that's in the middle. It's in the enlargements of the map.
Well,
It says parking.
it does say parking improvements, but she was talking about parking.
Oh, parking.
Yeah, this sort of green string here is the park that was identified in the middle
And then I
of,
think there needs to be
sort of midway between East Riverside and then there's
pedestrian bridge
like
from
one
River
here.
Park.
That's green, that's the park, and then one that's, again, at the Donner confluence. But a little hard to see on the map, I will. Questions
So,
about those ideas and projects that have been identified?
clarification, where it says the Ps, where it says park improvements are actually parking improvements, not.
No, those are
Those are park improvements.
Park improvements.
Danielle, do you remember?
And it has,
Because the
this little,
locations are-
and it has this
But I
little
don't know where the
green
parking is.
swath associated with it.
Okay, but see, then I don't.
You had mentioned
This-
parking though, and I don't see
I know,
that.
so,
I think it was park, yeah.
I think it's park.
I think it's a park.
I think
In
it's
the
park.
text, it
So the
talks about
question on the
parking.
table
On
though,
the text.
is parking,
Yes.
is parking discussed, and if so, where?
In the follow-up descriptions within the plan that describe this diagram, the parking and then it lists these specific areas that are captured here were the
Or
parking.
they didn't mark it, they just,
I think that's right.
you didn't create this?
2005.
2005.
Yeah, so just, we have to remember,
Oh, we have
19 years ago, a lot of good work,
A
but
lot
it's
of good work,
19 years
but
ago,
it's like-
yes.
This is
And it's-
2005?
Yeah.
Yes, that's
Okay.
2005,
It was a-
19 years ago.
It was approved in 2005, I'm sure it was several years in the
on.
making.
Yeah, yes.
The park, there across from the rail yard, where is that? Would that be? It's all public or private property in there, isn't it?
Down East River Street on the left-hand side between the railroad tracks and some of the houses down there.
yeah.
I don't think this has anything to do with public or private property. I mean, I'm currently
Right.
managing a
Oh.
private property that has a park cited for it, so. You know, I mean, presumably if we decide that, hey, this is a great place to put a park, there would be some sort of potential compensation for the owner of that property or a proposal or whatnot, but, yeah. But I think that across from the rail yard, that is an amazing place for a pocket park, and I think there's even a proposal for a park, and I would say that actually adding a pedestrian bridge to the regional park there would be amazing. But I'll leave that in my comments, I'm not really sure how.
Yeah, so, we'll start, other questions, it's a lot. And it's not the clearest map, I will.
I think it's hard to give feedback when we haven't had time to process this,
The-
even though we've seen
The
it.
asterisk that says civic and public, what is that defining? Civic and public?
The civic public was in reference to civic public plazas, so those, and it also, that ties into sort of the park development piece, that there's a place for the community to gather, a civic public plaza.
No,
Was
And it would be
always
owned by the
described.
government, the town of Truckee?
Potentially.
Well, I'm just looking at where my shop
Publicly
currently
accessible.
is, where this red asterisk is.
And I think it actually slides south, even though it's a big asterisk, I think it's intended to be
The park across the
south.
street.
The park across the
It is,
street.
it's the park across the street.
The old courtyard.
The old
Is that
courtyard.
right? Danielle, do you
Yeah.
remember? Oh, we're asking you to dig way back.
Yeah, I mean, just for some background, so when this was put together, it was a very similar process to what we're doing right now, where the community spent a lot of time in open workshops, kind of working through their best vision of this area and looking at opportunity sites. So that was really the lens that they had. So how do people access the downtown? Like, where are we missing those engagement opportunities as a community? What is our, vision for this area, and what does that look like? So that's why this is such a high level in these graphics, is because when people were moving pieces around on paper, doing the exercise, they kind of looked similar to this, where you had, like, where do you want to park? Where do you want, access and better, kind of pedestrian and interactions? Where do you not want parking, things like that? So it is a little hard, this many years later, to go back and kind of look at it, because it's not that refined in how it was done when everyone was participating back then, because this was so new and innovative at the time of, hey, we really want to dig into this area of town and look at what that looks like. So I think, you have to kind of put that lens on and think about back in 2002-ish, starting to talk about this, what the community was interested in. I mean, that's still back when the community thought we were a tourist destination, and we wanted to sort of, attract more people here and, create this interesting spot on the river, a lot of it for not just the community, but for the businesses to have more opportunity too. So it's just a little bit of a different historical perspective that people took when they were participating in this exercise too.
Can I just throw out there, and Travis, if you go to page 25 on the staff report, or in the staff packet, the hard copy that you have, it speaks to Central River Village, which is the park space, and I think that's where that asterisk is really pulling over. But it's fascinating to revisit this and see what the vision was in 2005 and what we're doing today. Like, it's almost exactly what was thought of. You see it, Travis?
What page did you say?
25. You can keep going.
No.
Yeah,
other comments?
Yeah, other comments before, again, because the map itself has a lot to it, we're picking apart all of the different line items that we just sort of spoke to, and that's, those concepts as ideas is what we'd like to just, again, do a first litmus test, pass at, for example, pedestrian circulation loop that extends from Donner Creek to Trout Creek on both sides of the river. So you have one that's along, potentially maybe it's closer to the roadway in that road corridor, and then you connect across the river to Truckee Legacy Trail, and that continues on. But you'd have a loop. That as an idea. Bike lanes along West River Street and East River Street as an idea. We'd like to just get a first pass at like which of those feels right that we'd want to try and incorporate. Maybe it's in a slightly different location for some of the parks or some of the other elements, but which of those pieces of the vision would we want to start to incorporate and continue to move forward with? Or which ones are, no, we don't want to. So that's where we have the dots in front of you to interact with the map on the board, on the wall. So red dot is just, let's not think about this. I really don't think this is something that moves forward. And any other colored dots you can put anywhere you like. Just red means no, but any other colored dots mean, yeah, I'd consider it. Should be considered.
Oh, yellow is not caution?
No. No spectrum, just making sure that you have enough dots. So we'll take, any other questions before we dive into this exercise? And then I'd like to do a similar exercise with the opportunity areas themselves, about which opportunity areas we think would want to move forward with. And maybe there's others that we should consider working, or maybe there's something we should.
Maybe Stephanie, maybe it'll help, because I'm hearing a little bit like this is hard, we haven't really looked at it that long. We're gonna take what we learned today and to refine it and come back with a more refined.
Yeah, this is sort of the first just touch of like, these ideas, which of these ideas seem like they are part of your vision.
So try to clean up the map a little bit to give you
We would take, yeah, we'll start taking the component pieces and playing around with them a little, getting them over private, the ownership piece, like being able to layer them into some new mapping. But just those components of vision. Any that you'd like to talk through before I release you?
Can we move the road on West River Street?
Maybe we could add in.
Maybe we need another, we need another category. You know, maybe what we should do, it is really hard, it is hard, but maybe what we committee members should do is just do it, like just suck it up and do it, so to speak. Just so we have something that we can give the team to get started with, and then we can respond to that.
And I would say some are probably lower hanging fruit than others, and that's totally fine if there's others.
Yeah. I think it is a little overwhelming, as you know, I can tell from the way you were talking it through, it's a little overwhelming. And it's also hard, I don't need to understand, I'm just saying it, it's hard to understand how the work that we're gonna do this evening is eventually gonna line up with what we were just talking about, the responses from the community members, what they, you know, it's a little hard to see how all those pieces are gonna come together and we're gonna get a vision out of it, but I do understand, like, we sort of need to get a start.
I hear what Lisa's saying, but I want to add to that. I would really appreciate for all of the committee members to get everything in advance. and what the activities are going to be expected of us for that night, because I would have liked to have gone back and read all my notes on community input. Every single person who's come, and then look at the data that we've gotten so far, because I'm a member at large and I'm not representing my organization. And I'm feeling a lot of pressure because of that. And so I'm just expressing frustrations. I can suck it up and go do it, but I'm not gonna feel good about it.
So there was some additional information in the packet tonight that I probably naively thought would provide enough of a framework to get us to this point. There's, can you page up a little bit, where the individual, the other way I guess, the individual areas were spoke of. There's opportunity site concepts, and then it goes into every single one. And if you know, like the Donner Creek confluence, talks about each of those areas. So in reading your packet, I was thinking that you would have an idea whether you agreed with that idea or not. Now, you know, like I can see that we're not there yet. We were trying to dissect what is the primary planning document we have, and what pieces of this planning document are we really comfortable with moving forward to that vision, and what pieces of this planning document do we need to scrap or amend. So it's really in that each section that's spelled out in the river revitalization strategy. And you know, I'm okay switching it up here, talking through each of those. Maybe we should look at each one that's in the packet and talk through them before we go to the docs. I'm trying to find a way to get us all on the same page here and to provide some very good information back to the consultant team.
Maybe just from some prior experience in doing something similar, when these diagrams get difficult for people, we've often just said, go ahead and put your ideas like on the paper.
Yeah.
So that if you're not feeling constrained by the dots going, oh my gosh, should I put it in the wrong spot, or am I addressing it the way that I want? I think because everyone here has that background already of communicating with different community members and representing different aspects to this, sometimes that's just even helpful, is to say like, no, I don't think we should have, you know, this feature on here still. But you could write it out instead of using the dots too. That way it's a kind of a fluid conversation you're putting on the paper that still provides feedback.
And we also do have just the list of the features. We do have that in the Minty, because that was going to be the interaction with the public, and we could do it simultaneously. I could also parse it out and do them separate, but just to see, again, sort of that, are we way on the left that we're like, not sure, this is, we need to think, is this really appropriate, or, yeah, this is probably right, we'd like to improve walkability, and maybe sidewalks are right, like, we don't necessarily have to dive into those, and that helps us think about where we might be able to focus our conversations.
Something I think is totally amazing, because I've been focused on the new input and listening to community members of the various things and understanding, and now then I look at this.
Yes.
And in 20 years, we still want basically the same thing, which is really cool, I think. I mean, there's gonna be some changes, and the economy has shifted. Realigning the road was not here 20 years ago, that idea is new, but there are some new things, but we're not starting with a blank page, and I think this is actually great. You know, it has preserving some of the riverfront, it's got the access points, it's got good fishing. I didn't know that was there. But this is a great starting point, and maybe just seeing it so quickly, I do think there's no reason to rush this, considering it's been 20 years, but.
So let's do this. I think going forward, what we can do is give a better cover memo about this is the exercise. So when you're looking at this, think of it through that lens. So that's
That'd be really helpful.
That's good feedback, and we can do that for the next one. For this exercise, I would suggest we either try to write out on the maps, or if you wanna go into Minty and do each one, can you do that, Stephanie?
Yep.
And adjust, talk about each one, and then do it that way, that might help us through the initial.
Yeah, maybe we start with
That's
the
much
Minty.
Yeah, the minty thing
Okay.
feels
The
better.
minty
feels
Start with the Min-
Okay.
Okay.
Would you like, I can
Do you
go
guys
make
feel
a
that
duplicate, so we have two separate ones, one for just committee and one for public, or we could do it combined. Preference?
So what was the question again?
I can go make a copy of the Minty so that we can have one, two separate ones, one for the public to be able to rate, and then one that's just committee members, or we could do it combined.
I think having the two is good feedback, and so we can see what the committee's thoughts were, where the public weighed in, and that adjusted.
Sounds good, thank you, Jen.
Thank you, Jen. Yeah.
We're gonna get there.
Yeah. There's a lot of information.
It does feel overwhelming.
There's just a lot of information.
I can imagine that in the 20 years from when this was developed until now, it felt very overwhelming, and that was why we haven't seen as much movement in some ways. I mean, it's hard. Think about just the road realignment alone.
Yeah.
That is overwhelming.
No, that isn't.
It's exciting, but it's a
But it
bit
is.
overwhelming to think about how do you make that work, and then how do we come up with a plan around that, but still respond to, we need to like move this through within our lifetime.
Yeah.
Well, that's why it got adopted as a strategy too. It wasn't originally proposed as a strategy. The idea was to come up with a community plan to implement. And council struggled with some of the concepts and the feasibility of it, and so switched gears to having it be a strategy.
And then the recession.
Yes, and then the recession, yeah.
And probably just prioritizing and time, I mean, we hit a global recession, I mean, so many things happened between that time.
Yeah.
But, you know, we're back.
We're back. So let's take each little piece and make it feel a little less overwhelming, and have a starting point for the next conversation. And it's great that we have a good number of people in the public here, so we can get that feedback as well.
Can you go over the dot colors with me again, please?
Well, I think we're gonna shift Travis, and I'm gonna give you my computer, because you have something to do, Mentor? Oh, okay. We're gonna shift and do it on mine, so you can see it, because there was some discomfort with the dotting.
We also have, I think I mentioned it before, a lot of similar data from the 2040 input that we did on the same. It'd be interesting to, it seems like it'd be interesting to have this 205 data and the 2040 data and kind of see how those, because that's a whole, there was a lot of input on it.
We did that work with the downtown Truckee plan. So the
Excuse me?
newest version of the downtown specific plan, which is now called the downtown Truckee plan. We took the river strategy and the downtown specific plan and matched them together to figure out what was the same and what was different. So we did that work.
So that's
already integrated into the new version of the downtown specific plan.
And how does that look in comparison to this?
There's definitely some differences. We're not probably very explicit about highlighting all of them in the newest downtown specific plan, but if that's important, yeah, we could pull that out.
So just for the public, if you have a cell phone and you want to do it, scan that code on the right side, and that will get you to the Minty. For your comments, and for our group, the code on the left side is the same Minty, but it will keep the comments separate.
And is the Minty the packet that you're talking about?
It's gonna be a series of questions probably that we're all gonna do together that are hopefully gonna drive some discussion.
Yeah, so everybody is there, we'll go ahead and advance slides, and if you end up dropping and need to come out, the code will be at the top, and Madison can enlarge the slides if needed to get that code number.
So everybody should have just moved forward.
So on your phones, you'll have the suite of first suites, we have 3 different pages of different recommendations or elements that were included in the 2005 plan. That, again, just as Joan said, which ideas do you feel like, yeah, it's an idea that we've talked about that feels like it makes sense, or to the left, you know, either we really need to talk about it or not sure.
So very specifically, when it says 3 pink circles on your map, these 3 pink circles,
3 activity areas.
those are the 3 what are referred to as activity areas.
And Rolf, are you on
So these were focus areas where.
with your phone? Do you need help?
I need help.
Here.
How's everybody else doing? Anybody else need?
Do you want us to move all the way through this whole first
Yeah, well,
thing?
thank you.
Go on.
Can you go back a slide,
Yeah.
Madison, to the, or to, there. That's for Rolf. Thank you, Kristen.
Oh, but no, it just
Now
made
it
so
just-
we all got kicked out.
We all got kicked out.
Sorry.
That's okay. It'll be fine once she goes
Everybody
forward.
before we move on, everybody's got it? Everybody wants in, is on?
There we go.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, thank
I
you.
think what would be helpful is just to talk through these one by one.
Yes.
Right, so 3
Yes.
pink circles are the activity centers, so those are the 3 pink circles on your map. Yeah, let's drive the car if it was
Yes, the simpler, the better tonight.
Yeah.
And then after that is,
Pedestrian circulation loop that extends from Donner
So I've
Creek.
got, I'm sorry, this is just too detailed, but for the pedestrian circulation loop and the bike lanes, could we assume that it does, the pedestrian loop and the bike lanes would include what's now in place in 2024?
Yes.
Right,
So
on
you
High
have-
Creek.
yeah,
Okay.
you
Yeah,
have a
ones
bike
that's
lane.
already
That-
there.
Okay, so everything that's planned and already
Everything
there.
that's in.
Currently built.
Currently
Yeah,
built.
Currently built.
Great.
But not planned. Okay.
and everybody knows the pedestrian loop is the black dotted line.
Yep.
Question, is left mean no and to the far right is yes?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
But do we want to include?
Yeah, we do.
You know, this is putting a lot of stuff on West River Street. It's like a main thoroughfare.
So,
I think that's something that we can talk about, yeah.
I mean, this, yeah, it's just a lot.
but that's what the feedback we're getting, right? Is this, when we get through each of these, is everybody thinking this all should be there, not be there? That's what we're trying to get the answer to.
And is pedestrian circulation loop
We want a lot of stuff.
It is
would mean both bike lanes and or sidewalks? Could be a combination of both.
Well, pedestrians are pedestrians, right? And bike lanes are bike lanes.
Yeah, so
There's
there's,
two
like, there's not
categories.
that much room on West River
Well,
Street.
we shouldn't concern ourselves about whether it can happen or not. We just want to know, do you want it? Would you like it?
Would this be part of,
You don't- we
would
don't-
bike lanes be part of?
We get to challenge an
Like the
engineer
cart
in the
before the-
future, whether they can do it or not.
Well, and Travis, what is possible that will come out of this is we might have the majority of people saying, I don't want bike lanes or pedestrian loops because it's too much. Like, we're gonna get that feedback based on the results of this, with everybody's opinions.
Yeah, it's
Is
basically.
that the one we talked about?
Okay, are we on sidewalks?
Sidewalks along
It's just gonna
portions of
pop
East River Street, so where we don't have sidewalks, adding some sidewalks.
I mean, it's.
So question, like if we want the pedestrian bridge near the confluence of Donner Creek, but we don't want it where it is,
I think maybe put it in the middle, like.
I mean, I think it would be
But maybe there's
amazing
some-
to be able to add comments to this,
That's
because,
what we'll have some discussion.
Yeah.
After we go through this slide, we'll discuss all of these items.
so if, I wanna make sure I understand. So if we want the concept, but we don't want it where it is, or we wanna change it, we put it in the middle.
Or, yeah, tag it a little bit.
And then we're gonna come back to that.
Yes.
Okay.
We can come back to all of them, even if they're all yes, or all no.
well, the reason why that one's coming up is the pedestrian bridge near the confluence with Donner Creek. I mean, you'd have to define near. My understanding is that right at Donner Creek is unlikely, but further towards 89 is more likely. And so to me, I'm going, yes, that's near. I'm 100%, and Pam's doing 5.
A little bit
because-
like it, but too close. Donner Creek is too close.
Well, I just think that, to me, whether it's at the junction 89 or Donner Creek, that's near.
But I think we gotta get out of that level of detail for this.
Yes.
Like, the question is, do we wanna have a pedestrian loop? Does that make sense in the area? And then we'll come back to
What is a
where.
pedestrian bridge?
Or pedestrian bridge.
Yeah.
Where and what does that mean? Like, right now.
But generally on the west end. But there'd be another one.
What does ROW mean?
The right of way, the railroad right of way, so
Sure.
over the railroad.
Over the railroad.
Yeah.
Pedestrian
yes.
bridges over the
Yes.
railroad.
I think, I just want to point out on some of these things we're asking, this is a good example. The pedestrian bridge over the railroad right away, it's not whether that idea is good or not, it's whether that idea belongs in the rest, belongs in the river revitalization plan.
Well, that's a whole different question.
Do not include an updated plan, do include an updated plan.
Right, so is that like beyond our sphere of influence?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
I just made it more complicated, Lisa.
I know.
Lisa, that just added a whole different level of complication, right?
Not in our sphere.
But thank you.
But it should happen.
I'm not in this plan.
So
Okay,
Yes,
that's fine.
yeah, nope,
Yeah.
you're right.
So
you're
that question, this is out of our sphere of decision-making, is that correct?
Well, I
Well,
don't
I
know
think-
what would be.
I think because it's on here, asking us this question, we can kind of say, do we want it in the plan, or do we not want it in the plan?
Yep.
That's the ultimate
That's how I
question
read
here.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
If
would-
they're asking the question,
Okay.
I'm gonna
Right.
answer.
Good.
Yeah.
I would say that's kind of like road realignment. I don't think anybody came to the table thinking we were gonna be talking about moving the road, and
That's right.
you know,
Right.
it wasn't
Yeah.
necessarily the
That's
scope, but we're
Well,
having.
there are more things like that we're
Right.
thinking
Well,
about.
that's why I think this is one of those things.
No, I'm afraid.
I know.
Okay, Three River access points and Revitalization districts in blue circles.
The stakes
This
do
is
feel
on your
high, I have
property.
to say. I think that you keep saying, you're good at reminding us it's
So
a
I'm good
draft.
with
I did
This
it.
is just the first
And
of this,
and we
so
want
like.
more of
No, they're
it.
talking about
Where-
three blue
It
circles.
doesn't ask.
Yeah, so
I
the,
don't necessarily want to.
they were
The things
talking
that we
about
really need to
the, I remember what she was saying.
Blue
This
circles?
one?
I mean, we
The
haven't
blue
even
Which,
studied.
which blue circles though? 'Cause
And there's
there's,
actually,
There's
on the
five
plan,
blue
there's
circles.
6.
there's
Yeah.
6.
When you say 3, there's actually,
There's 6 on the plan.
There's 6.
Yeah.
There's 6 on the plan.
we-
And again, if
There's
we
3
don't.
I want 3 of them.
There's 3 areas with 6 access points.
But what you're saying, I'm just gonna keep clarifying. If there are six of these
some wine.
circles, and we all have blue circles, and we only like 3 of them, and we don't even like where all of those 3 are located.
I'm gonna flag it that we're gonna talk, that maybe we can
You can
talk-
send a comment. Once you submit, there's a button to send a comment. Just so you all know. I just found that. I don't know if that's a good thing for me to tell everybody or not.
Oh, well, you can hit send a comment?
Yeah.
Oh, you can?
Yeah, once you push submit on that, it pops up and you can send a comment.
Okay. But how do we send a comment on several?
You just
But I
gotta
also
write 'em
think
out.
you could, if you choose like a number not 10, you've chose, or 0.
We wanna talk about it.
You've chosen something that,
It's not perfect the way it is.
that's right,
They
it's not
are.
perfect the way it is, thank you.
10 might have been too high of a number for you to give us.
I know.
1, 2, or 3.
I know. How we didn't do dots.
The presenter doesn't change slides yet. Please
Wow.
wait.
I can send a comment, but Pam cannot.
I cannot send a comment.
Oh.
Well, you can send a comment here if you want.
They both said.
They both say public, can you,
So Jan gets to send a comment and I don't.
Doesn't like you.
I think Pam, they said you have too many comments, so.
I will have a lot of comments.
them a different
They're not
way.
even giving
So the one
it
up
a
is
chance.
No, it's,
Yeah, the one with 11. Okay. And that's everyone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we are.
Alright, so if we just stop on this slide for the R2SC, even though it says public, apologies, didn't change the slide, but these are the results for the first suite of items. So the 3 activity areas are pink circles.
but that's for public, right?
No, this is,
I apologize, we didn't retype the public versus R2SC on
Move the
each of
road.
the slides,
Did you see
so.
that?
Is the road there?
The comment just popped
Came
up.
up
Move
as
the
a
road.
comment.
Oh, but see, I can't make a comment. Can I make a comment on yours?
Yes.
Just make a comment on yours.
I have unlimited comments, Pam, what do you want to do?
Okay, I'm coming. I'm coming your way. I'm gonna make a
Okay, let's
comment
go.
on my
So
comments.
I would
on
say
yours.
if we go back to the R2SC.
this is R2SC.
Which one
Oh,
is
no,
it?
12. What are we making a comment on?
So this is,
It's in
yeah,
general.
it says public, this is the steering
It's not
committee.
a specific,
Yes.
it'd be nice if it
Yeah,
Yes.
we'll take a pause after this and change some text, but it'll probably bump everybody out, so I wanna make sure we're ready for bump out.
No, I'm adding comments.
We're good.
I'm
I'm
okay that
adding
you don't change
comments.
this.
I don't know.
So generally, it feels like we're somewhat aligned, but would like to talk about these. Are there ones that people would like to talk about a little bit more before we move on to the next series of items?
Add the road.
At sidewalks, and I don't know how everybody else feels, for me, sidewalks are really important where there's commercial, but maybe not as important where it's, where I think bike lanes are and I just want feedback on this. Just, bike lanes are important everywhere, and sidewalks are important where we have commercial development.
I disagree.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
was
I
hoping
think that
someone
our
would say-
town suffers from not having sidewalks. I think as someone that likes to, I don't like to bike, like, I would never get on a bike ever again if I could in my entire life. But I like to walk and I like to run, and I feel very limited in this community on where I feel safe doing that, except in like on the Legacy Trail and things like that. But I think if we're looking at development of an area, not putting sidewalks in seems like a misstep.
Okay, I think that's,
I'd like to ask, what did the community want? In all of the input that we've had, from community input, from what we see, I wanna know what
I
that
think we're
theme is.
gonna overlay all of that.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
right now, I think this is the time that this committee expresses your opinions as committee members. And then we continue to add the conversation of the public and the audience and everybody else.
As long as we're going to make informed decisions based on what our community feels,
That's right.
not just this committee.
So, the one thing that, I mean, just to, I back Jessica's position on that we keep hearing walkability, and to me, I mean, it doesn't have to be a sidewalk, I mean, you can have mixed, multi-use
Yeah.
trail or
That's
something
fine.
like that, but I
That's-
think
that's okay.
you need to have options in this loop.
Yeah.
And it may not be, a sidewalk that the snowplows tear up every winter, that kind of thing, in all areas, but,
The
I'd
safe
hate to see us
passage for
do
people.
discontinuous sidewalks. Everything should connect.
Other thoughts there?
Travis, what are you thinking?
Well, I'm at a loss right now because it seems like the general motoring public is unhappy with the way West River Street is currently, with the jog, the curb, the gutter. I hear it all day long. And I understand about the sidewalks and safe and all that stuff, but I think what we're failing to recognize is that is a main thoroughfare. People come down West River Street all day long, every day. They don't go through downtown Truckee as much as they come on West River Street. And if we're gonna just blindly say that there's not more people coming, there's more coming and more cars. And what two roads do we have? West River and Donner Pass Road. And we're gonna continue to put more and more and more on West River Street. There's no room. Literally, there's no room. I know you guys think that there's more room, and now the focus has shifted to now like maybe move the road, maybe onto the park a little bit.
Your section in front of your property, is that what you're talking
Yes, but even down there by Cornerstone and all that, it's really choked down. And do you think that it's safe enough for people to be walking down there with trucks and trailers and semis coming up and down West River? I wouldn't want to be on the sidewalk down there. I mean, it's dangerous, especially when people are on knees driving down the road. It's gnarly. You guys should spend like some time down there and just watch people driving by. Everybody's on their phone, and I don't know what the right answer is, but adding more stuff, sidewalks, bike, there's no room for it, you know? And sometimes that's the hard decision, is like, okay, well, there's not room for it. We're all having this grand plan when it's not attainable. Everybody wants sidewalks, everybody wants bike lanes. How wide does a bike lane have to be on?
I think 4 feet, but it might be 3.
I think it's 5. How much is it?
Depends on where it is.
Yeah, and what class it is.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I think, you know, the question really is, it's never been safe to walk that section of West River Street. And I would ask, is it safer now to walk West River Street after the improvements, or was it safer before? And I would argue that it's much safer now. Biking hasn't changed much because
It's decreased.
there is no bike lane there now.
That choked up area, the bike, there's some pedestrian access, and the bike access, there isn't any.
You have to take the lane, just like you do in downtown.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, I ride my bike through there all the time, I walk there all the time, and, you know, unequivocally, it's better now, and it's not even finished yet. But that's my opinion, right? It's not a fact, but, you know.
Okay, so concern about the ability to actually realize some of the changes, but then also the balance of uses and recognizing the function of the road as a road. Is that somewhat a piece?
I think so, yeah. I just look at what was done on Commercial Row with the sidewalks not being raised. I guess they're like, you know, maybe brick that's flush with the asphalt. But then when you raise it up like that, I guess it makes it safer for somebody on the sidewalk over there where cars are going faster. But I don't know, it seems like there's a lot going on, and it keeps getting smaller and smaller to make people go slower, but it makes them drive faster and they're more pissed off. That's what I see.
Okay, that's helpful for us to understand. Other thoughts for us to consider around sidewalks, bikes, walkability piece? Again, this is a first step of where we might be layering in.
Well, we're really looking at whether these topics want to be in.
Yeah, whether we want to, how we might want to consider them in the updated plan.
Do we need to discuss them further?
I mean, I know that this is potentially controversial, but if you want to make things walkable, and connect essentially the wild side to the more developed side, I think that we should be looking at alternative or other pedestrian crossings, because I don't think that we're ever going to make West River Street a really lovely place to walk, but we already know that the town has created a wonderful place to walk on the south side. So if we want to activate some of these areas like River Park Place, to walk a mile in either direction or a half mile in either direction along West River Street, even with a sidewalk, is not going to be pleasant. And so, I know I've studied this very closely, and I think two, and they've actually been called out in this plan, but two, they're actually not necessarily in the map, but two additional pedestrian crossings would create a lot more connectivity between downtown and our, open space, basically.
So taking that
And those are
further,
roadway pedestrian crossings, is that correct? Or
Are you saying
those
pedestrian?
No,
bridges?
pedestrian crossings from basically the north side to the south side.
Of the river.
so,
Crossing the river.
Crossing the river.
Bridges.
Yeah.
Connecting both sides of the river.
Yeah, unless anything else on this sidewalks, bike, walkability.
So this plan had, had three, and Danielle three pedestrian crossings. One on, it's actually on 89, it goes up over to 89, right, over, just up the road. One at the park, and one, which is already in place, on East River Street, the sanitation bridge.
East River Street
Truck-
Bridge.
Yeah, East River Street Bridge. So we,
Which exists, yeah.
I believe two will be done by the end of this, well, we have one, right? One is in the works and will happen this summer. And is that, you think, an adequate amount of pedestrian crossings?
No.
Okay, that's what I'm getting at.
I think
Like, are
that
you,
for me, it's, so, we're gonna have a whole list of key features from the framework that we wanna recommend as a steering committee. For me, the question of more pedestrian crossings beyond the two we're gonna have starts to be a ranking, right? Starts to be a trade-off and a ranking. So would it be optimum to have more pedestrian crossings? Probably, I would agree with that, but money's, money, time, resources, so there's a prioritization of things.
I do want to clarify, though, that there are pedestrian crossings that are considered or proposed in the 2005 plan that are not on the map. Specifically, in site C2, potential river-oriented, there is a potential river crossing. I don't think it's the best place for it.
But it wasn't actually in the framework plan, but it was in the.
Well, it's just not, it's not on here.
Yeah.
But again, I know how it works. It's like, not all parts of the plan talk to each other.
and we do have, we have the bridge,
Yes.
the vehicle bridge, that is also a pedestrian
Yeah.
crossing.
Yes.
So we actually do still have, we'll have four if we build the one on
I think that we actually should have like, to Lisa's point, that just like the road potentially moving, like adding potential pedestrian bridges is like a big topic, right? We could spend an hour or more talking about it.
Yeah.
And I think that that's, like, I would love to flag that as something that we want to dive into deeper.
I agree completely, it's kind of like a ranking.
Yeah.
Does it rise to the top?
Travis, did you have something that you wanted to add to that before, or?
I forgot now.
If it comes back.
And my last point about that is that people that don't walk in downtown much, and you drive, you're like, well, there's a bridge there, and there's a bridge there, and there's a bridge there, and it's like, but if you were to walk down West River Street, and, to get to this beautiful open space we have on the other side, you're gonna actually get in your car, you're gonna drive over there, and then walk, and actually tie up a parking space in downtown, right? So if you don't have more, I'm passionate about this topic, it's not walkable. And if we want walkable, then we should consider more.
But do both sides need to be walkable? I mean, if we have the legacy.
Well,
south side.
what I think is most important is that from anywhere in town, you should be able to walk to the Legacy Trail, right? And so one of the ways you can accomplish that is by making it easy to access a pedestrian crossing.
Which may, in the long run, if there's only walking on one side, it to the point of, I mean, I wouldn't wanna walk on a sidewalk on that road. And to Travis's point, there's some pinch points where it just doesn't make sense.
Right.
To engineer it up above the river, I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
Some of this that we're kind of rehashing now with the walkability and the pedestrian was the reason for the kind of the figure 8 loop. That was a big part of those conversations back in 2005, was trying to solve all these problems and why.
Getting around the places where it doesn't work.
Yeah, and why the idea of the figure 8 with a couple of connection
And
points came up.
just add, like, sort of the not statistically significant feedback that I've heard is the walkability, accessibility, that is number one on people's minds. It's being able to walk and enjoy the river, especially in areas that are left natural.
Can I just point out a point that we're hearing, Travis, hearing you say that this all can't fit on West River, it's too crowded, and hearing the need for walkability, but acknowledging that it might not all have to be on West River, that the Legacy Trail provides that. And I just think it's important to realize that we're maybe not that far apart in some of this conversation.
And there's phasing as part of what we're talking about too. It's not, we don't get any of it within a 2 to 3 year window, right? It's a, what were we talking about? It's a 20 or 40, 20 to 30, 40 year window.
Once the road is moved, it's all.
It's all fixed.
If you actually did move the road, it would have. I say that in all seriousness.
Yeah.
When we look, when was West River Street built? When was it paved?
It was well before.
Probably like
Pre-World War
40s,
II?
40s, 30s,
20s?
40s.
40s? My point is, I mean, it's a big question, but it changes the nature of West River for 40, 50, 80 years from now. Once you build a road, it's kind of there almost forever without a big, heavy lift, no pun intended. That's the point of it. Otherwise, West River Street, where the road meets the river, as Travis states, it's gonna always be compacted. It's never gonna be comfortable to walk. It's just not possible.
Well, the railroad, the road, the river.
Yeah, so, pick.
Definitely.
Right now, you don't get any, but I think you get 2 of the 3.
I disagree with the point that it can never be comfortable to walk. I mean, it may not be as nice
I agree.
as the other side, but.
There's hyperbole in what I said. I agree with you.
But what I also think is that was, as far as the moving of the road, I mean, like when you were saying moving the road, I mean, I agree that like if you could just magically, or, basically put it over by the tracks.
Yeah.
I like that idea, but it may or may not be possible.
Right.
But I do think that some, like if you were to move it away from the area that I think Kristen was referring to, where you're right up against the river and there's
The guardrail.
the guardrail, yeah.
Guardrails.
But if you were to move West River Street 4 or 5 feet
Yes.
there to most likely Union Pacific, nightmare. But anyway, I mean so I'm saying it's not an all or nothing.
And at some point, there'll be a feasibility aspect to this.
Yes.
But that's not today,
Say,
right? Is that?
That's not today.
That's not today, so.
Yeah, let's, I want to take one peek at the public's responses to these to see just where they fell. So, ped, circulation loop, bike lanes, sidewalks, all tended a little bit more to include than our steering committee. Pedestrian bridges over the railroad right away, more to, we need to talk about it, let's debate about including in this plan. And then the 3 river access points, habitat enhancements, positive. Generally, but need to consider locations and application.
I wanted to talk about over the railroad.
Yes.
The pedestrian crossing over the railroad. I guess I am in for some, if not, multiple. And I'm afraid if we take it out of our plan, it goes away. It never becomes.
Yes.
So, like, I don't feasibly think that it's gonna happen anytime soon, but I don't wanna think I don't wanna lose that it's a good idea. That having something there would be.
But if we don't dream it and say it, it won't happen.
That's absolutely.
Is it in the downtown specific plan to put, like, does it live somewhere else? Because I know you guys are doing a study,
So I
right?
was hoping to circle back to that
Yeah.
one too, because I would like to understand if the 2.5 on this, and I don't recall what the steering committee's ranking was. 5.3. Is that a ranking of it doesn't belong in this plan, but we like it?
Yes.
Or we generally are thinking that's a high priority that we want to like at the moment? Because to Jessica's point, we did get grant funding for a feasibility study that's going to be moving forward to see if it's even possible, kind of around like the Mill Street area over, to give you some idea of where that is looking at.
So it must be, for you to get grant funding, et cetera, blah, blah, it has to be somewhere.
They're in the downtown plan.
No.
Oh.
It's in the downtown plan?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, mine was just that I don't know if it belongs to
Belongs
what
here.
we should be talking about, and maybe I thought that because I know that it is, you guys are already doing it, so I wasn't worried about losing it.
Okay.
And it also, which this would be in the feasibility, says, like, it does raise a safety concern in my brain, like, just being someone that works has a place near the railroad with the welcome center and watching people run across it and all that kind, it just, that would always make me nervous, but that would be something that I assume the feasibility study would tell us, so.
Well, I'm assuming they're gonna be very safe crossings
Yeah.
that are not,
They won't allow
remove a lot of
it.
safety.
Yeah, so like that
concerns.
would be,
so the study is, just so we're all talking about the same
Yes.
thing, the possibility of a crossing, whether it's a bridge, underpass, or at grade.
or at grade, that's what I thought,
Yes.
it was part of that, yeah.
I mean,
So-
realistically, at grade, the railroad is not gonna.
Yeah, they're not
I-
gonna do
I
it,
think
yeah.
we know that, but that is the three options.
So I ranked this one as 0 because for inclusion in the river revitalization initiative that we're underway right now. We're not making decisions today, but in terms of flexibility of thinking, for me, it doesn't belong in this plan, or this initiative that we're on right now, but some acknowledgement of this kind of importance, so there would be a reference for it, it would reference the downtown plan or reference the study or whatever, so it gets a boost and an acknowledgement of a connection with this, but it's not included in this. That's my thinking today.
So the downtown plan does have sort of a north-south crossing both on the commercial row side and then also on the rail yard side, showing a potential pedestrian bike bridge as a concept, and then there's a policy that talks about it too. So if you took it out of this plan, it's still in another plan as a reference.
And
I guess, I understand that, like, this, to me, it's important part of revitalizing this part of town, because, if you, we all know that town of Truckee's like one hand clapping, right? I mean, it's, so if we can connect the river, that to me is really important, so, and I don't think it's something that, my guess is that we're all gonna be like, okay, yeah, those blue things that are on this map, keep it there.
Yeah.
Then maybe there's a little paragraph in there. I mean, to me, it's like, even just discussing it much further than that is not, like, I'd keep it in there,
I
but
think
just
it
keep
also,
it brief.
we can say it works to connectivity,
Yes.
right? In regional connectivity of whatever ends up on West River Street to the rest of the community.
You can always reference that it's in another plan, different strategy, but that it's important to us.
Yeah.
Other thoughts?
That feels good.
There's a piece that come up for me in this discussions about more bridges or bridges across, and that is kind of the broad piece is the view shed. Do we, are we gonna make the river into this urban something versus keeping it more wild and scenic and the bridge, bridges, and I've already heard comments from my neighbors who are really upset about the view shed that they're facing, Riverside Drive there, off into the new parking lot and the bridge, and the idea of, there was some talk, I guess at one time, about tree planting and putting in creating some visual barriers there that keeps it from looking like an urban parking lot, and there's concrete abutments, and it's really impacted them. So I don't know if that's considered in all of this, but I think it's hugely important.
Yeah, I think
It's
that's
kind of
that's
an
a good
over.
point. Yeah, as we're thinking about bridges crossing the river, that
But-
they also need to think about the aesthetics or
Yeah,
the
the-
appropriate locations.
Yeah. Yeah, and whether it's a, bridge over the railroad tracks, that's an ugly thing to look at, or underneath the railroad tracks, which doesn't impinge on the view shed. I think those things are kind of important in what we're looking at here, and,
Yeah, I think that's something we can bring back around to.
yeah.
And it's,
Trade-offs.
on this plan, there's only 4 locations noted as viewpoints. That seems
I,
incredibly light.
I think what he's talking about is somebody sitting in their house on Riverside Drive, looking up the river and staring at
I agree, but
Yes.
I'm thinking outside, beyond just the residents, like, do we really only want 5 locations designated as viewpoints?
Didn't we vote that we wanted more?
We haven't gotten there yet.
Okay.
I think, are we, switching slides, right? So we can switch topic areas? I think you all voted on all of them, is
Yes,
that right?
yes.
Yes.
So let's just keep going in order then. The public plazas, or I guess we skipped the river access points. I think river access points were good, we just needed to think about where.
I submitted a comment in there about what is the yellow dot with the number 2 in there? I mean, pink dot, sorry.
I'll have to look at that just a second.
That's the Gebhardt Bend.
Yeah, those were favorite places along the river. So number 2 was Gebhardt Bend. Number 1 was Hidden Rapid. Have you guys, is that a common reference point for the river?
Maybe.
To some people.
Maybe to some people?
No, I do think there's some historical naming that was used when the consultants were talking about sections of river, just to make it easier for people to understand like what they were looking at.
For me, when you said Gebhardt Bend, that would tell me it was somewhere where Jan's property is, the Gebhardt property.
Right. And that was the name of the property.
I thought it was some kind of variance.
Oh, so there it is. It's the first question, I think.
Yeah.
Where Jan's property is, they want to make it
I know,
public.
this is, it's probably for us, correct? She gave us the presentation.
So
This
two
doesn't
public
make sense to me.
plazas were discussed.
With this.
In addition to the one on.
It looks like it's
At that park site, so one near the Eastern
What is
Pedestrian
asking
Bridge,
yourself to
near
make a
Gebhardt
decision on
Bend,
somebody's private property,
a number of viewpoints.
right? Okay.
No, I don't think so.
That's why I was asking about this red dot, because that is right where my shop is. And that's right where Jan's
And are we
property
looking at the steering committee results on this one?
is. Okay.
This is the public. So we only have 3 steering committee results?
3 steering.
We'll wait for a minute for. We have. Some of them are doing opportunity areas, but we'll have some pictures. Dated to.
This is.
Have we seen what we voted?
You are, right now,
Yes,
being,
yes.
what, that's
Ignore-
ours.
Ignore the sign that says public right now.
This
These
is
are-
ours?
this is
Yes.
ours.
It says public.
Yes, because they couldn't go in and change all of it without kicking us
Okay.
out, so.
Got it. So this is ours?
Mhm, this is ours. See the number at the bottom, 5,
Yes.
6.
See if we can get 11.
And now, is this what the public that's here are saying?
No.
No, we're still on ours.
We're
No, it's
still on
updated.
ours. We're
Yeah,
still
it's
on
not
ours.
switching it.
Okay, please let me know when.
I will.
I just added a comment.
If you keep doing that, then we'll know it's ours.
Yes.
Yeah, you can say, oh, there's my other comment.
Anybody else?
Anybody else wanna finish up on Nancy for our steering committee?
Yes.
Private property.
Yes.
Okay. Not seeing anybody else with phones.
No, everybody done? Okay. So
let's
it's
start with
6.
Plazas. Our 2 plazas, one near Gephardt Bend and one near the Eastern Head Bridge. Thoughts about plazas in general as a concept? Jessica has a.
I have a comment, of course. I think when I'm thinking about like a public plaza, none of these questions talk about like development at all. And we've talked about housing and mixed use and restaurants, all those things, right? So for me, when you're talking about like a public plaza space, it would encompass some of that conversation. And I don't know if I love either of those locations for that type of development, or any type of development, I guess, but like public plaza just it feels like a weird term for
Yeah,
what we as this group have been talking about, so in my brain I kind of
I
changed it a
completely
little
agree
bit.
with you. Like, to me, the word plaza is like a hardscape.
Yes, it's like where the bike is.
And I-
Union Square in San Francisco.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
see both these two as being much more park-like settings.
Yeah, with
of-
maybe some,
That are set aside for people to gather at, like picnic tables and that kind of thing, but not.
Yeah, we didn't, I mean, the rail yard, like the old, anyway, the new development, that
The old
didn't even
lumberyard.
exist in
The rail
concept.
the
you know,
rail yard,
that-
yeah,
anyway,
either of them.
yeah.
Other thoughts?
My thoughts are, why are we building plazas with tables and all this stuff instead of keeping it wild, rustic, and real? You know what I mean? Like, these are in positions, has anybody gone to the state park and sat at a table and seen what happens when people come to a table? They get up and they look for a garbage can. If there's no garbage can, they leave it on the table. This is real life stuff. So the more we do this stuff, the maintenance in the long run, who's gonna take care of all that? I mean, we're talking about building these little parks everywhere, and that's all great, but I think I like it wild, rustic, and real, instead of, hardscape and concrete, and, picnic tables, and it just you build it and they'll come.
Yeah, it's, I'm kind of with Travis and maybe kind of not. I'd put 5 for both of these, put it right in the middle, because given some of the things that Jessica's mentioned, those will be built environments. And so for the things that are public spaces, do we want them built? I don't know that we want them hardscaped and built, so then everything ends up hardscaped and built on East and West River Street. I know we don't really think that. I know we don't think that, but if we're not like nuanced and subtle in the conversation, then there ends up with really a lot of pavement.
I think I took the little P, park improvement more as like parks and tables and things, and this is more like built space.
Yeah.
When I was
I did
thinking
that
about
too.
it, just, and maybe that
Yeah.
needs to be clarified for the whole group,
I think
but,
it's fair, because it's a concept, right?
Yeah.
As it's described.
yeah, so like the
it's
little
helpful
P is
to
like a park,
understand
the,
vision.
Yeah, I interpreted it the same way.
okay.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty clear that this is something that requires more nuance than
Yeah.
sliding scale.
Yeah.
Yeah, nuanced conversation.
And this would be something that, I think the public can really react to this longer term.
Well, and all of these spots where they're proposing this stuff that I'm looking at in my brain, knowing these property owners, Al Pombo it looks like, and you know where my shop is at. You guys say it's not there, but it's there. And where Jan's property is, the Gebhardt Bend, I mean, that's, Edgar's property is also down there. That's what it looks like to me is private property, and we're making decisions for private property owners, or potential.
Yeah, I think as part of the vision, this was ideas that were part of it, can describe that, but often as part of these planning efforts, yeah, just thinking broadly about what could be, I think there are sort of big dots that could encompass multiple locations is generally a concept that could shift, but there's this idea of a place.
Yeah, I get that, but
to
we were
germinate.
talking earlier about, no, it's just a concept, we're not talking about shifting, so if we're going black and white and looking at where this stuff is, you know.
But we would talk about shifting. I think right now we just want to understand concepts. And to all the points, like even the verbiage of plaza doesn't totally resonate is what we're hearing, and you know, has a little bit of more nuance to Jan's and then the location piece. So that's helpful for us as we think about, you know, what does this really look like in Tahoe right now.
Well, and then I also think the consensus is from the people I talked to, I'll go back to it, there was a big old 4x8 sheet sign that said coming soon, nothing. And then you look across the river and there's concrete boulders and fencing and all this stuff, and I'm like, well, I guess that's nothing. So then, you know, you're looking at a park, a plaza with hardscape, and I don't know that I would be into it, you know, and making a decision to not keep it wild, rustic, and real.
Well, I was just gonna say that it's, per the earlier, I'm just repeating things we talked about earlier, you know, how we're communicating and how we're defining and how we're setting expectations is to state the obvious, it's really critical, because the parking lot might be better for people than a hotel, but parking lot's not nothing, right? So, again, it's the nuance in the conversations.
Well, let's keep going. This is really helpful. Viewpoints, you mentioned more thoughts about viewpoints in general, viewpoints of the rivers. We have some positivity, but discussion, or we have limited time to.
Yeah.
We're at that time.
John, I have a conference call at 7:45 that I can't miss.
Okay.
Sorry, I can just leave.
Well,
I have to leave.
I think that's quorum though.
Can we see what the public said on this?
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're gonna have to come back and pick
And
this
that's
up
good.
again.
That's good.
Which is good. Everybody gets a little more time to think about stuff, and hopefully we have more attendees too, that, you know, we're missing quite a few of our members. We'd like to hear their feedback. So, go ahead, public on this one.
This one is.
Okay. This one's public.
So a little bit less on the viewpoints, this is at 3, and then the final 3, riverbank stabilization, streetscape, and forested edge. Pretty positive.
Yeah.
And some, like, not rejection of the plazas, but some hesitation in the plazas.
Yeah.
I think reinforcing that we need to talk about that more and understand what it is.
Yeah.
And think about what it is. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. So I'm going to open for public comment on this item.
Kristen again. Can I go back to the sticky notes? Just about, because it is, I don't know when to bring this up again, but it is about the public. I noticed that the Cornerstone and Wild Cherries, those talks weren't in there, the 11th. And
We've been on there yet, but.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking, like, is there a way to do this in a graph or statistically that's more user friendly so that people, because I'm just, you know, I think that would just, just wanna go back to that point of how do you reach the people and how do the people see that their feedback is being shown?
And I very much appreciate your comments,
But,
but
that's
that
not.
item I closed public comment on
Oh,
to
I
be
see.
specific
Okay.
about how I have to kind of keep these meetings
Okay.
run. I'm sorry.
Apologize.
But I will.
Next meeting.
Next time it comes up, you just take it.
Or maybe we'll have it better next time.
Yeah, and maybe you can congratulate them.
Yeah.
But any other comments on the comments here? Any public comment on that? Yes, please. Can you state your name? I'm sorry.
Sure. My name is Ben Naylor. I'm a property owner in Truckee.
Great.
In seeing kind of the downtown area, like it seems like it kind of lost its wild and scenic nature a long time ago with a train rolling through there, major east to west corridor. And so, like, you know, yeah, the land trust has, you know, the coming soon nothing, but making that accessible for people, I mean, it just seems like there's so many things in our area where, like, when there's properties, the wealthy people will come in, buy it up, and then we don't have access to the river, the natural resources, like you go around Tahoe, there's only a couple of public docks, and places that you can use now, like, and so in that, creating a place that the public can access and we can have places, yes, like they get built up with picnic tables and stuff like that, and I get that part of it too, but it's also, something that, the town can use. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comment. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. And committee member updates.
I think we lost it.
We don't have a quorum, so we're done. Our quorum has disintegrated. So our meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much. I think, although difficult, we got through a lot of really meaty topics. So thank you. Thanks for bearing with us.